Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Daffy Duck, the Marvin missions, brought to us by Sunsoft. Daffy Duck, the Marvin missions, based off of the Duck Dodgers cartoons from the 24th and a half century. You're playing as the titular Daffy Duck, or Duck Dodgers, taking on Marvin the Martian through 4 levels of very hard platforming action. Here we go, though, with Daffy Duck, the Marvin missions for the Nintendo Game Boy. The game was also released on the Super Nintendo, but as a kid, this is the version that I played the most, so I wanted to show it off for this video. I'm sure one day I'll get to the SNES version. The coolest thing about this game, and the hardest thing about this game, is the jetpack. Being able to hover and being able to get up to the biggest heights is key for some of the areas later on in the game. Here we have our first battle against the mini-boss K9, Marvin the Martian's pet dog. We're just going to jump on his head multiple times, as eventually he'll start bouncing around the room a little bit. Just keep focusing on jumping on him, and you shouldn't have any problem dealing with K9 and moving on to the next section. Here we're going to drop on down through several platforms. Here we come across one of these cube objects. Destroying them gets rid of the barriers. You saw that one just a bit ago. We have to destroy many of them throughout the course of this game. Work your way over to the right here, being very careful. Some of these, like this, can be very difficult to actually get onto the platform. You kind of get used to how it works a little bit, doing the hover and such. But still, after a lot of practice, the game is still very difficult. Here I'm going to attack multiple enemies right at the end of the section here. They always like to bombard you in a few places in this game like that. Here we have our first boss fight though, our actual level boss against Marvin the Martian. We're going to start off by jumping up and firing at him as he moves back and forth. Eventually we'll get to the left platform here and then be able to jump on his head easily. He'll then start arcing just back and forth left and right, which makes him an easy target to just hit when he comes to the left, and after just a few jumps he's taken care of and we're moving on to level number 2. As we begin level number 2, you're going to see one of those barriers and a cube locked up. We're going to go to the right just a little bit and destroy the cube here, and then do a little bit of backtracking to destroy the other one. Here you can take the top or bottom path. The bottom path, though, you're going to end up landing on spikes if you're not too careful. Destroy that cube there and continue on to the level and go to the next screen. From here, drop on down, being cautious and watching out for the spikes as you do so. In the next section, you have to speed up and you'll get Marvin the Martian to show up behind you, and what you need to do is bait him into crashing. You're going to see arrows pointing at you and letting you know what direction to go. What you want to do is make sure you kind of stay in the one direction as long as you can and then move so that Marvin the Martian ends up crashing directly into it because he follows you back and forth. Here we can get him to crash into this pole and move on to the next section. We have to do that one more time in the game. Carefully make your way onto the individual pillars here, watching out for the spike pits. You have a lot of robots here at the end. You can take out a few of them before attempting to go over to the right. Here you're going to get bombarded by a bunch more enemies real quick though as we reach the end of that section. Be very careful at the beginning of the next one though, very small platforms that we're going to have to use, and getting in between these columns and such can just be very difficult. Takes a lot of practice, and even then I still make plenty of mistakes and had lots and lots of failed runs before I was finally able to get a good one here. Here we get attacked by a bunch more robots. I try to defend myself a bit, but there's just so many, I'm just going to take the damage and move quickly through the area and get to the next boss fight. For this boss, we're going to jump on his head multiple times. Eventually, he'll start speeding up and crashing into the wall, causing rocks to fall from the ceiling. You can do your jetpack move in order to kind of get through the rocks. The game has some weird hit detection when there are a lot of times where you're using the jetpack, it negates being actually able to get hit by a lot of the things, so you can use that to your advantage quite a bit throughout the game. Once we land on him enough though, he's taken care of, we're moving on to the next level of the game. As we begin level number 3, heading over to the right side, watching out for some bugs dropping from the ceiling. Make it across this big old gap, and then we have to deal with these electrical current causing things. Watch out for the electricity. There's plenty of them that we're going to have to cross through during this section. Carefully fall and hover over the platform here and make it to the next section. Drop on down all the way to the bottom. You can see all the places that we're going to be going in just a moment. Here we have to kind of work our way up doing our hover jumping. You kind of have to like tap the button accordingly, and you can get it to just rise you a little bit more than just holding the button. And that way you can get up on these higher platforms. Definitely takes some practice to get used to though. Keep working your way up to the top and on to the next screen. Here we have another battle against K9. We're going to do the same thing that we did before. He's moving back and forth. We're just going to stay on the right side here and jump on his head. As the second part of the fight will begin, he'll bounce around the room, of course, jumping around, but we're going to stick to the plan, staying over here to the right side and jumping on his head until he is taken care of. After he's done, we'll move on to the next section where we have to be chased by Marvin again and get him to crash. Just do the same thing that you did before, and you should have no problem being able to deal with him. I'm just going to keep moving up and down, avoiding the fire until one of the arrows shows up. And have him crash right into it. Be very careful here, destroy a lot of these objects before attempting to go over to the right. Don't destroy too many though that you end up falling into the gap that you end up creating. Just keep blasting your way through these objects, a little bit annoying, but won't take you too long. Then we're going to go to the top part here, continue blasting our way through these objects. You may have to back up a little bit in order to do it. Go to the bottom here and then over to the right side where you can find the opening that goes to the next screen. Here you're going to carefully get immediately off of these platforms that fall when you land on them. This whole section is going to be very tricky, working your way through it. Destroy the objects from a distance and then jump up to that platform hovering to it. At the very end, we're going to bounce off these enemies' heads, which will allow us to refill our jet and get to the right side and to the next screen. Here we're going to take on the next boss, jumping on its head using our hover. If you do it right, you can actually hover through most of the objects he actually ends up firing out. The second part of this fight, he shoots out his fist, which you'll be floating above him and bouncing on his head anyway, so you should have no problem being able to dodge it. The game's platforming is very difficult, but the bosses in general aren't too bad. With him done though, we're moving on to the final level of the game. Level 4 is extremely challenging, without a doubt. From a distance, we're going to take out these couple of blocks, and then we're going to do a kind of hover jump downwards in order to hit this cube, and then get back to the platform that we're currently on. Carefully move across these platforms that end up falling when you jump on them. The next section is very difficult. As we fall down here, we're going to destroy this cannon, and then we're going to destroy all of the objects, or as many of them as we can, to the right of us. Actually being able to hit them all can be pretty challenging. You may want to switch off to one of the other guns. In the game, you have several other weapons that you can use. When you pause the game and press either up, up, down, down, left, left, right, right, you'll get one of 4 different potential guns that you can end up using to help you in the game. They cost 10 score in order to use them, and they can help you out in a certain few situations. Especially right here, just trying to get rid of these objects and then being able to get back up. It just is very annoying. I've gotten stuck at this spot so many times. Going to continue working my way down to the bottom and then off over to the right side. Dropping off this platform, I'm going to blast the cube and get back to the platform I was on a moment ago. From there, we're going to head over to the far right side, keep going, watching out for the big old gap that we have to kind of get across. You'll be attacked by several enemies before you end up reaching the next screen. Here, you need to drop on down to the bottom, working your way through all these objects. Make sure that you save a few objects there that you can then use to platform yourself back up to the top, because you need to get to the bottom and destroy this block on the right. Don't destroy the one on the left, just the one on the right, and then get yourself back up. One annoying thing is health objects in the game, if you fire at them accidentally, you can destroy them. They'll go off screen when you hit them. I was always a fan of classic Looney Tunes. They were always on television when I was growing up. For all those generations, so many people have seen the Looney Tunes cartoons. And there's a lot of them that are still very entertaining to this day. What is your particular favorite of the Looney Tune characters, or if there's a particular cartoon that you end up liking the most? I don't know who my favorite is. Daffy's one of them for sure. I like a lot of Daffy's different cartoons, especially the one where he does like the Dick Tracy parody. I always thought that one was great. For this section here, we're going to have to destroy that cube above us. We're going to switch our weapon again and jump up and attack the wall. At first, I try to attack it using the regular gun, but it just doesn't end up working and hitting it. But if you use one of the special guns, you can end up hitting this cube. That allows you then to get to the exit of this area. Without hitting that one, you won't be able to get to the exit. Here I try to destroy as many of the objects before attempting the jumps here, as it can be difficult to hit them all as you're doing that hover real quick. And then walk across this end spot in order to get into the final boss fight. We do have one little section after the final boss, but it's pretty much nothing. For the final boss, we have these two objects in the lower left and right sides. We're going to destroy them. Once each one is destroyed, that's it for the fight. You just gotta watch out for the laser while you're doing so. Like I said before with the bosses, usually they aren't too bad compared to the actual platforming and such in this game. Once the one's taken care of, we're going to head to the other side and take care of the other one. Once that's done, this boss fight is over and we have one little extra section before we can call it a day. Here, all you're going to do is walk over to the right side. You're going to see Marvin the Martian moving back and forth. Just jump on his head one time, that's it. And then just sit here and you can sit back and enjoy the ending to Daffy Duck, the Marvin missions for the Nintendo Game Boy. So there you have it, Daffy Duck, the Marvin missions for the Game Boy. There actually is a hard version of the game you can play through as well, which I may end up doing at some point down the road, but this is the version I was most familiar with. I didn't even know that existed back when I was young. But I still ended up having a lot of fun with this title, even if it was very frustrating at certain parts. There's been a lot of Looney Tunes based games released over the years, and there's several that I haven't quite tackled yet. Another favorite of mine is Tasmania. Both of the Taz related games on the Sega Genesis I played quite a lot as a kid, and also the ones on the Nintendo Game. As the credits finish up very slowly, we get our presented by Sunsoft, and with that will wrap up this episode of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.